I got a fever that only spice worms can solve.
Yeah, I know. I got a fever. And the only prescription is more sandworm. I mean, why is no one talking about this?
Welcome to the Hub on Hollywood podcast. I'm your co-host, James Rojas.
And I'm Jamie Blanco.
On this week's episode, it is Oscars weekend. Yay! But with this year's Oscar gift bag, I think everyone who is leaving, they're leaving a winner. Speaking of the Oscars, one of the best movies of last year is accused of plagiarism. No! One of my favorite movies of the year.
Filmed here.
I know, we'll get right into that. One of the worst movies of the year, of this year so far, Dakota Johnson is dishing the dirt on Madam Web. Our imaginary friends are hitting the silver screen in two different movies. Just make sure you don't take your kids to the wrong one. And we are reviewing Dune Part 2, Kung Fu Panda 2, and American Fiction 1. But first, Jamie, did you hear...
Yeah.
Did you hear The Office star BJ Novak is receiving a pardon for a prank that he pulled at the Museum of Fine Arts here in Boston?
No, but you know what? I feel like the Museum of Fine Arts anywhere is not a place you should be playing pranks.
No, this is a place of learning, of intellect, of not shenanigans, but that is exactly what happened back in 1997 before the actor, writer, comedian was famous. He apparently went to school at Newton South High School, a local Massachusetts native, and what he did with a friend of his was he went to the MFA and he recorded over the audio guides for the exhibitions, apparently confusing countless innocent victims. BJ and his friend, they were actually welcomed back to the museum as part of a celebrity lecture series, and it was there where he received an official pardon from the museum forgiving him of all his wrongdoings and transgressions. But it was pretty funny. Like, who would have thought that, as a kid, you go to this place, you prank the place, maybe you get in trouble, maybe you don't, and then years later, decades later, you're invited back and not only asked to speak, but you are forgiven and given an official proclamation saying so.
Yeah. That comes with the fame, and he brought that sensibility, that comedy, that talent, let's say, for mischief, and brought it to The Office, and all of us have loved him for that. It's just like when you being a journalist, James. When I was a kid, I got in trouble for being a tattletale, to the extent that a teacher actually tied a rope around me.
Oh, God.
And I had to wear a tattletale. Well, guess what? Joke's on them, because I grew up to be the ultimate tattletale, which is a journalist. I grew up to be a professional tattletale. And I think that's kind of what happened here with BJ Novak. So, 1997, technology is not that advanced. So he got into the system somehow and re-recorded the...
Yeah, I imagine how you do it. Maybe you have the actual handheld device, and for those who are not familiar, but you can check out these. They look like kind of like mini bricks, mini cell phones, but they're very, they may be analog or what have you. And you press a button. You're like, here, I'm at display at 11A, and you push 11A, and it talks about this is George Washington. He was a great president. Yada yada yada. Maybe he found a way or a loophole or a way to reset the device where you can reset it and maybe record your own stuff and then put it back amongst the other remotes or the other recorders. And so maybe that's how he did it. But here's to show that you can pull one of the best pranks ever and possibly get pardoned for it. Is there a prank?
Only if you're wildly successful, yeah.
Is there a prank that you've done back in your youth? You mentioned, you were a tattletale, but is there a prank that you'd like to be pardoned for ever?
Well, I wasn't that much of a prankster, but there was this one time my uncle had he passed the bar, he started his own, law practice, and he was trying to get new clients, and he set up a phone line for people to call if they needed a lawyer. And so I called, pretending to need his legal services, with a really weird voice and progressively more ridiculous reasons, like what my crime was and whatnot. And getting him more and more, flustered until he's like, Jamie, is that you? Until he figured it out. He recognized my voice eventually. because I probably started giggling and whatnot, but I mean, I guess that's kind of harmless. What about you? You seem like a hardened criminal, James.
Yeah,
what did you do?
One of my most egregious atrocities was, I think, back in like the 5th grade, where our whole class were about to be released to recess, and for some reason the teacher was like, "Hey, everybody can write on the whiteboard. Get a marker, write a message or whatever on the whiteboard." So I, took it upon myself, like, oh, let me be a real stinker over here. So one of our classmates, who wasn't, I think she was popular, but I think just a lot of the guys just didn't like her. So I wrote her name. I won't call her out, but I wrote her name and I put blank stinks or blank smells. And then everyone runs back to the line before we're about to get released, and somebody sees it and they go, the teacher stops, like, who wrote this? And like, if you don't come forward, no one goes out to recess. So I'm like, So I was like, I did. And so I stayed after class during recess with that girl, and I apologized. And so hopefully I can get a pardon for that. But I did apologize in the moment, albeit I was busted at the time. So
yeah, I see.
We do terrible things. We do terrible things as kids.
We do, but you know what? It's all a part of learning. It's all a part of growing up, and then you take that spunk, let's say, and you apply it to life. That later it becomes a spice of life, as long as you're not being mean to people or whatnot. Anyways,
it's not cool to bully. It's not cool to bully. That's what I learned.
I'm pretty sure I got pardoned at some point for my shenanigans, and good on BJ. We love to have him here, and hopefully we can get him here on the Hub on Hollywood sometime.
We'll reach out. But in the meantime, let's talk about what everybody's talking about this weekend. It is finally here. Oscars, the Academy Awards. Now, by the time you're watching and listening to this, the Oscars have come and gone. The winners have been showered with champagne, and the losers have been doused with, tar and feathers? I don't know. Whatever happens there. But those who do go to the Oscars, you may know, is that they go and they leave with a gift bag. And many of these gift bags, they are known for being, ridiculous with what's included and what's provided and all this other stuff. Guess how much money one single gift bag. So say you go to the Oscars. I'm Mr. Oscar, and I give you a gift bag for coming and you leave. Guess how much, with all of the products and maybe even like tickets to places and events and stuff, how much do you think that's worth, this one bag?
I'm gonna cry because I would love to have one of those gift bags. Gosh, I don't know. Something ridiculous, and my idea of ridiculous is like 20 grand. But I'm guessing that's not even.
That's chump change.
No, God. You know what we could do with that? Anyways, how much are these gift bags?
$250,000. So when it's all said and done, those who go, they get this gift bag. And what comes in that bag, it includes a variety of skin and wellness products. Sounds simple, but you have to build up. So you get skincare, you get wellness products, and then you get some gourmet popcorn. What does that put you? What is that, $100 maybe? If it's super fancy popcorn, I guess. But then they throw in designer throw pillows and trips to an all-inclusive stay at a Swiss chalet for up to 10 guests. So not only yourself, but 10 other people get a trip at this inclusive stay in Switzerland, as well as a 7-day holistic wellness retreat and a 3-night stay at a private villa in St. Barths. Crazy.
Yeah, we could all use that, couldn't we?
We could all use that. One thing I would love to see is somebody go receive that gift bag and go somewhere around Skid Row, somewhere in downtown LA, and just give it to somebody and like, here.
Yeah.
Change your life. You never hear that. Insane. But
very experiential. Yeah. But exactly. Earned? Is it earned perhaps? Maybe. Is this for all of the attendees? Is this for all of the nominees? Or
it's my understanding that it's like anybody who goes. I think that's, I could be wrong, but it's a gift bag. So when you go, and I think if you walk the red carpet at the very least, you're one of those people that gets a gift bag. Maybe not everybody in the stands, maybe not, but for sure I would think everybody who at least walks the red carpet.
Okay, so look, James, you're from LA, right?
Yes.
How can we get on the red carpet? There's got to be a way you just sneak on. You'd be like, hey, we were in that thing. Like, I'm just going to grab one of those.
We were on that thing. Yeah. I can make a few phone calls. I could see. I've been to a couple of red carpets, but as the interviewer, but I can try, you can always sneak your way on there. There are ways. We don't condone sneaking into the Oscars or any award show, but I'm sure there are ways. All right. Well, at the Oscars, we are definitely going to be seeing Paul Giamatti, Dominic Sessa, Davine Randolph Joy getting their gift bags, but they're getting something else around this time. They're getting some controversy, and that's always priceless.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. Well. We're hearing that the writer, the screenplay writer for movies including Luca, was that Pixar, that Disney, that fish movie. Also the writer for Paddington 2, Simon Stevenson. He is accusing Alexander Payne and the screenwriter for The Holdovers of plagiarism. Say it ain't so.
Bum, bum, bum. And this is a movie that you have been obsessed with. You've been singing its praises. Filmed here in New England. It's almost an instant classic. But where is this plagiarism claim coming from? Plagiarized off of what?
So this is based off a screenplay that never came to fruition. It's called Frisco, and Simon, the writer for this one, who's making the accusation, he says that there are things, the structure, the story, the sequencing, sub-beats within scenes, and line by line substance of action and dialogue, character arcs, you name it. He says there are so many things that are very similar, if not exactly the same, than what we see compared to what we see in the Holdovers. And he talks about in his version, his movie Frisco, it talks about this protagonist who is this pediatrician who has to take care of this teenager for over a span of several days. And he says that there are so many things that are similar to this. And, I think you can argue, there are a lot of stories that sound similar, and maybe these things were not stolen or directly inspired or what have you. However, the evidence that he says gives credence to his accusation is that when he started working on this screenplay in 2013, he sent the screenplay to WGA, the Writers Guild of America, the union, as well as other people, including Alexander Payne, to look it over to see if they can get some momentum and get this film made. The movie never got made. However, he says with that screenplay in Alexander Payne's hands, down the road, Alexander Payne went to his screenwriter for this, what's his name? Hemmingson, Mr. Hemmingson. And long story short, he says that Alexander Payne, with the beats, with the story arc, with the character ideas and everything, went to this guy, said, hey, I want to do the story that takes place at this boarding school in 1970. Will you want to work on it with me? And then that's where the Holdovers comes from. So he says in 2013, he had Alexander Payne had the perfect opportunity to read the script, go over it, and make his own movie with many things based or very similar to that. So I think it's going to go to court, if not already, and we're going to see what happens from this or what comes from this. But if it is plagiarized, it would be very disappointing. However, should that take away from the movie, the actors, the performances themselves? What do you think?
I think that that's going to be a very difficult thing to prove. We're going into the whole territory of intellectual property rights. And as you mentioned, there are lots of stories that are very similar. And even if he had read the screenplay, even if he had gotten some inspiration from the structure or the beats, it is a fundamentally different story. So it's like, where is the burden of proof? At what point is it plagiarism? And at what point is it you're just being inspired by elements around you? And because if you're going to be like, well, it has the same beats and the same kind of theme and the same kind of... Well, then every movie is plagiarized from every other movie. That's what they teach you in screenwriting. I've taken some screenwriting classes, James. And there's an expression for it. It's the same but different. That's how every movie is, essentially. the same but different from something that has come before it. So unless they're like word for word using dialogue or characters, real significant story elements, I think this is like a big shot in the dark, and this person's trying to get something for nothing. That's at least my take on it. Egos are a thing in Hollywood, James. I don't know if you heard.
Yeah.
If you might have any experience with that, but from the highest levels down to the very bottom, I can tell you some stories about background actors who are overly litigious, and there are background actors who have sued productions because they didn't show up in the background, which is patently ridiculous. My scene was cut. It's like, did you have any lines? No. Were you a principal actor? No. You were just a guy in the deep background. Then your scene wasn't cut.
Even then, if you are an actor, there was an actor, I can't remember his name right now, but he was in Dune 2, had lines, but at the end, the final cut, his character was cut. And so he was actually surprised and disappointed to not appear in Dune 2, but that's part of the game, that's part of the thing. But
it's the nature of the biz. Yeah.
We'll definitely keep an eye on how this comes out, this Holdovers controversy. But one thing that is not controversial is how, the audience reaction to Madam Web. As we know, you reviewed it. No, you did not review it, but we talked about, the behind the scenes filming, production, shooting of it. They did shoot considerable scenes here in Massachusetts in Worcester. And now, the public, the audience have had their chance to critique and comment on the movie.
Yeah.
But somebody who many people were not expecting to be so open about it is talking about it, right?
Right. Dakota Johnson, the star of Madam Web.
The Madam Web.
The Madam Web herself, talking about how she now understands that she does not belong in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Like, saying these things, she has gone on the record with her extreme unhappiness with how this film has turned out, how this production turned out.
As she should be.
I suppose she fired her agent after the fact, and it's just... It's very different, James. You don't normally see, even with a stinker, even if your movie came out and it just was the worst and it's been torn apart, you at least try, right, to be there for it. You at least try, right? That's what you're hired to do.
Yeah.
But no, Dakota Johnson saying in no uncertain terms that she is not surprised that Madam Web got ripped to shred, that she will probably not be back in the MCU. And this quote in particular, she says that she believes that the movie ended up the way that it is because decisions were being made by committees, and art does not do well when it's made by committees. Johnson says films are made by filmmakers and a team of artists around them. You cannot make art based on numbers and algorithms. She says, my feelings has been for a long time that audiences are extremely smart, and executives have started to believe that they're not. Audiences will always be able to sniff out bullshit, she says.
Yeah.
Even if the films start to be made by AI, humans are going to effing want to see those. Humans are not going to effing want to see those, she says. And I think she makes an amazing point. She makes a very excellent point that I think that there are a lot more films that are coming out that feel this way. And most in particular, I think The Rise of Skywalker, the last Star Wars trilogy film, was a perfect example of this. It was
too many cooks in the kitchen.
Too many cooks in the kitchen. It was a movie made by Disney executives, and it was obviously not a coherent story told from the heart, following human characters. It was, what if we do this? And then this happens. And what if we throw that in there? And what if we sprinkle this? And like, oh, we can sell this. And oh, this will help these fans. And, and it was just a flaming pile of, dare I say, poop, James.
How
dare I
dare
say
you?
poop?
But yes, very
How
appropriate.
dare you? What's your take on Dakota just ripping not only her movie, but industry execs to shreds?
I'm surprised. She initially, when the movie I think was about to come out, or was on the cusp of coming out, she did say that she had not seen the movie herself. And I think that was a comment, a nice way of saying, it's not a good movie. I'm not interested in the movie, or I'm not happy with the movie. So that's a nice way of putting it. Like, I haven't seen the movie yet. When, as you are publicizing these projects, you're talking about, oh, it's great. I've never seen anything like this. The actors are amazing. The action's great. Yada, yada, yada. We didn't get that from Dakota. So again, she was doing it in a nice roundabout, not in a very indirect way of saying not a fan of it, but now she's coming out saying, yeah, this was a mess. She's acknowledging that it was a disaster and puts the blame where it should be. You were curious, have we seen other actors do this before? And we have seen this, but I think the difference is we saw more time, we saw more breathing space, more breathing room in between the release and their response. For example, with Robert Pattinson and the Twilight movies, it is abundantly clear in interviews afterwards that he is not a fan of the movies. He doesn't think they were good, and he's not shy about that. We also know George Clooney, when he was cast as Batman, he was very excited and publicized the movie. But after it came out and then he saw the final product, I think he waited a certain period. But now he jokes about and how he apologizes to anybody who says they saw the movie. And so so it's not unheard of actors coming out and dissing and criticizing the movies that they were in. Maybe they were hoping it would be better, but this is a very short window of Dakota coming out. It's still in theaters right now. It's still in theaters. So that is interesting. But I have to give her credit. If it's not a good movie, if they were sold something differently as well, if they were saying you're going to be in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, you're going to be hanging out with Tom Holland, Spider-Man, and it doesn't happen, don't be surprised if you're a casting agent or a talent agent and you no longer have a job or are no longer working with that person. So kudos to Dakota. Hopefully this. Again, I don't think it's going to take a lot for studios, I think, in the wallet to make them change bad habits. But hopefully this is just another thing to help in that direction of less studio interference, the better.
Yeah, absolutely. Game of Thrones as well, another example when the season finale, when the series finale came out and there was a premiere and interviewers were asking the cast, what do you think, how it ended? Everybody was like,
Amelia Clark was like, it's definitely over.
And poor Kit Harington, like he needed therapy literally after the end of the series because of how atrocious the ending was and the backlash and everything. Literally needed therapy as a result of what happened at the end of that series. So I'd like to say I want to see it and I want to like it, but I think the writing is very much not on the wall. It's bleeding, everywhere and across the screen. So
speaking of series that have come to an end, one series that will not come to an end but will in fact continue is Avatar: The Last Airbender, because it was just announced that seasons 2 and 3 were confirmed. Jamie, you reviewed it last week. You had your issues with it. You had some good things to say. Overall, I would say maybe you're not the biggest fan. Your initial reaction to seasons 2 and 3 being announced?
That's my reaction. I hope that they learn from the lessons of season 1 and that they can improve upon the good parts and the positives that there were in this series. The casting, the visuals, all of those things that were put in the garbage and set on fire with the M. Night Shyamalan movie, I think were corrected here. However, it's the actual storytelling. I think a lot of the episodes and the characters don't have time to breathe. You've got excellent casting and excellent source material that's just not being utilized the best that it could. And you've got character development that is just stifled and stunted and stilted, and storylines that are just jumbled and thrown across, thrown together, and all of the, the beats that are supposed to help develop these characters are not there, or they're missing or rearranged, and then they're just not as significant. And the gratuitous violence. I haven't been a fan of the gratuitous violence since the first 5 minutes of the opening episode. I hope that they take the things that work, they improve on the things that don't, and that we get a more watchable season 2 and 3. But it might not have been my cup of tea, and it might not be for children, which really disappointed me that I can't watch it alongside my son. However, there are a lot of other people who enjoyed it enough that I can see why they would give it a season 2 and 3. And I feel like I wanted to have something that deserved to have more than just a first installment in regards to Avatar. I wanted more and better, and I don't feel that I got that in this series on Netflix so far. But there's tons of potential, tons of hope that things can be better, that they'll be better. And I am enjoying the way that the bending looks and works. So fingers crossed, and let's bend it into something that works a little bit better.
Let's bend it into shape. How about that?
Yeah, let's do that.
All right. Well, as we look forward to seasons 2 and 3 to see if they get any better, let me ask you, Jamie, did you have any imaginary friends growing up?
I did, but she was a bitch. No, I'm kidding.
She took everything I had. She never called me back. Well, there are 2 movies right now that are based around the same concept, but totally different approaches to it right now. It's not uncommon for movies to come out, different movies to come out in the same time, around the same period, have the same plot, have the same topic, and we see it yet again this year around with the topic of imaginary friends. Did you see this? So there's one movie called Imaginary that just came out in theaters right now, and then there's one coming out in May called If, which stands for Imaginary Friends. One is a horror brought to you by Blumhouse. The other, a comedy brought to you by John Krasinski. And this is one that you do not want to confuse, either at the movie theater or at home with your kids.
And here's what's confusing. Because in the kids' version of the movie, the Krasinski movie, they call the imaginary friends ifs. They call them ifs. Mm-hmm. Not to be confused with the horrifying if. So it's just, yes, I can see where there might be confusion. Or it's, yeah.
Yeah, very close. But yeah, so basically Imaginary, it asks the question, are there really figments of our childhood imagination, or is it something more terrifying lying just beneath? From Blumhouse, Imaginary finds a woman named Jessica moving back into her childhood home with her family when her youngest stepdaughter develops an eerie attachment to a stuffed bear named Chauncey that she finds in the basement. The playtime eventually becomes more sinister, only for Jessica to realize that Chauncey is much more than the stuffed toy bear she believed him to be. Very terrifying stuff. The trailer looks pretty good. Now, If, starring Ryan Reynolds, Steve Carell, and John Krasinski, that's about a girl who discovers that she has the superpower of seeing imaginary friends, so she embarks on a magical adventure to reconnect forgotten ifs, imaginary friends, with their kids. Yeah, it's funny. Again, so there is a time period, a time delay between the horror film, which is now in theaters, and the one coming out in May. So parents shouldn't get that confused. But once these are on streaming services, once they're available to rent, read the description and the rating before you put your 5-year-old kid in front of it, because you're going to have very different reactions. But This got us thinking about the other movies with similar topics, similar premises that were released around the same time, one of which you watched recently, that being Ants and A Bug's Life.
That's right. DreamWorks Animations, their very first movie was Ants, and it was an entire animation studio created just to compete with A Bug's Life that had come out earlier. And I don't know why you would choose to do a movie that is almost similar. We're talking about plagiarism earlier, right? The same but different, and at what point do they overlap? I don't think that person has a shot in heck with winning that case. And I think, it's very clear that this is very similar as well. So A Bug's Life, clearly much better than Ants. I don't know if you feel the same way, James. But
yeah,
it's funny when you've got movies in the theater that are the same and also movies that are opposite, like Barbenheimer last year, I think is what drew a lot of people into the movie because of how opposite it is. But you, famously, James, a fan of Paddington Bear, correct?
Yeah, Paddington and Paddington 2.
So how would you feel if Paddington 2 or Paddington 3, if Paddington 3 came out, went up against that new Winnie the Pooh horror
Love
flick?
and Honey, or Horror and Honey, or Blood and Honey?
Yeah.
I would not be bothered by that at all.
No? Okay.
No, I would not be bothered by that at all. But thank you for bringing up Barbenheimer, because I think there was a missed opportunity here between Imaginary and If. I think they should have arranged it to be released during the same weekend, because yeah, because that creates the controversy of because that'll get people like you and me and the media talking be sure not to confuse this movie with this other movie because one's a horror, one's a comedy. And so you could sell it to be okay, if you have a family, if you have kids, you have this great imaginary friends movie you can watch. If you're an adult, if you like horror movies, you have this movie you can watch. And then the controversy will be why did they release this during the same time? They're going to confuse kids. They're going to scar kids. This is bad. So that builds more buzz, more momentum, and people will go watch it. So I think this was a missed opportunity to have a Barbenheimer repeat with this imaginary friend concept. But that's just me.
Obviously, they should have hired us as consultants.
Obviously,
at top dollar, because you can't just release a movie anymore, James. You need to create an event.
Yeah,
you need to create a world-ending nuclear kind of event. You have to create a Barbenheimer. You got to get that buzz going, and what better way than to team up with another studio and create an event for each other.
Yeah.
But people don't like to work together.
Yeah, well, some other movies that had similar topics, premises that were released around the same time. No Strings Attached, starring Mila Kunis and Justin Timberlake, going up against Friends with Benefits, Natalie Portman and Ashton Kutcher. We have Dante's Peak versus Volcano. I love Dante's Peak. I think it's better than Volcano, starring Tommy Lee Jones. But both good movies about volcanoes breaking up and bursting neighborhoods and communities and cities together. Mission to Mars versus Red Planet. There's also Olympus Has Fallen and White House Down, pretty much the same premise of the White House being taken over. We have Armageddon versus Deep Impact, asteroids, meteors destroying the Earth and whatnot, and Tombstone and Wyatt Earp. Great movies, but Tombstone, I think, there's always a winner and a loser when there are two similar movies up and up against each other. So yeah, those are the most famous, the most talked about similar movies that came out during or around the same time.
So what would be your pick of those matchups, real quick? What do you think were the better ones?
So I would go Bug's Life over Ants. I did not see the No Strings Attached or Friends with Benefits, so I'll skip that. I will go Dante's Peak over Volcano. I will go Red Planet over Mission to Mars. I have not seen Olympus Has Fallen or White House Down. I will go Armageddon over Deep Impact, and I would go Tombstone over Wyatt Earp.
There we go.
Picks.
Nicely done.
How would you go? How would you rank them? What's your pick for the better movie of the pairs? Yeah.
Friends with Benefits.
All right.
Okay.
Talking about twos, how about Dune Part 2? Easy transition, easy segue.
Yeah, so, yeah.
I saw Dune. I saw Dune a couple weeks ago. I gave my glowing review. I loved it. Can't wait to see it again in IMAX. Highly recommend it. Jamie, you saw it. What are your thoughts?
Yes. All right, here we go, guys. Here we go. Are we ready? Is everybody paying attention? Look, I'm just going to say the same thing that everybody else said about Dune with one caveat. Sweeping, epic, amazing story, beautiful acting, the cinematography, the pacing, the beats, the storytelling. This is one of the only film franchises, James, one of the only ones ever, that I can say that the films are better than the books. Dune Part 2 is the second half of the first Dune book. I read Dune, and it does such a beautiful job of taking this intricate story, making it digestible, understandable, and trimming out the parts that actually didn't add as much to the story. So there was a whole bit where Paul Atreides inherits Jameis's family, and that's how he learns about the society and the Sieches, and that part, I get it. It didn't actually need to be in there, and I think they did just such a great, judicious job of trimming what needed to be trimmed, including what needed to be included. And God, it is just gorgeous. It's sumptuous. It is peak storytelling. I love everything about Dune. And you are so entrenched, and you're so just ensconced in this movie. You're on the edge of your seat. You're in this world. And then, James, in the middle of it, when you just are so enveloped, and in walks the Emperor of the Universe. The Emperor of the Universe walks in, and he's like, "Hey guys, it's me, the Emperor. Where's the Muad'Dib? Oh, we gotta find the Muad'Dib. What's with these sandworms? I gotta have more sandworm. Guys.
I got a fever that only spice worms can solve.
Yeah, I know. I got a fever. And the only prescription is more sandworm. I mean, why is no one talking about this?
Yeah.
My husband and I, we were so deeply into this movie, and then Christopher Walken opens his mouth, and it took everything that we had. We were red in the face trying to keep ourselves from busting out laughing because he sounds like he's parodying himself on SNL. It's
that's one thing I didn't mention. I mean, again, I was so enveloped by the movie.
Yeah, why?
I think everything else was on a whole nother level that didn't even register that well for me, or I don't know. Yeah, but that is true. That was one thing that I've heard people say, man, that was the casting all around was great, except for Christopher Walken. He may have been the one person who was miscast.
It immediately sucked me out of the movie so fast. And I couldn't understand why the whole theater wasn't busting out laughing. But it was such a serious moment. And you're trying to understand what he's saying in that part of the film where he's confronting the Muad'Dib. And, it's just... And Paul Atreides' attack, and they capture the Emperor, and it's such, sorry, minor spoiler alerts, you should have seen it by now. But why? Yeah, I think that was the only miss in this entire thing, but God, did I get a laugh. And then it just makes me think, Christopher Walken is Christopher Walken, and he's only ever been Christopher Walken in everything that he's ever been ever. Is there no other direction that you could give him? Is there really no other way that he can modulate his voice? Is that really the only delivery that he can give? And if so, how did Christopher Walken become so popular and so famous? And also, why was he cast in this movie? And also, what were the directions he was given? Was it be less Christopher Walken or be more Christopher Walken?
Yeah.
And why does the Emperor of the Universe sound like he should be eating a hot dog on a New Jersey street corner? I'm just confused, James. And I have lots of questions and no answers.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I hear you. Yeah, I hear you. That's one thing that could have been, if that was corrected or rightly cast, then I think you would give it 100 out of 100. But because of that one miscast, I think it's 99.99999 infinity.
Out of 100.
So
yeah. I give it 9.9 shirtless Kylo Rens.
I will say, if you do like Christopher Walken, and maybe not for this film, but for other stuff, my wife and I, we just rewatched, or she watched for the first time, I rewatched Blast from the Past, the 1999 film starring Brendan Fraser, where long story short, there's a fallout. It's the 60s. They think the Cuban Missile Crisis is going on. Christopher Walken is a genius, a professor. He has his underground bunker, and he locks his family and his pregnant wife at the time into this bunker, and it's sealed for 35 years. And after 35 years, it unlocks, and Brendan Fraser
I love that movie.
Great movie. So it's a really fun movie that holds up. It's really funny. If you want some good Christopher Walken in that one, watch Blast from the Past. But overall, you would still recommend Dune 2?
100%. I can't wait to go see it again.
Awesome. I love it. Would you recommend, let me ask you, another sequel? Would you recommend Kung Fu Panda Part 4?
Part Quattro!
Yeah.
I can't
they should have called this Kung Fu Panda.
Oh, what a missed opportunity.
What a missed opportunity.
See, this is why we need to be hired. Hello, people.
Damn it, Hollywood.
Consultants right here, me and James. The Jamie and James Media Consulting Agency.
There we go, J&J.
We'll get that on the back burner, J&J. Yes, I would recommend Kung Fu Panda 4. I went to go see this with my son. Pleasantly surprised, and a lot of these movies, they have unnecessary bloat. The writing gets away from them. The animation is just a little overdone. Nothing about this was overdone. It was crisp. It was concise. It was, pretty standard storytelling, but well done. It's like when you stick to the numbers, but you do it well. It was a great story, very entertaining, love the animation, love Jack Black, and of course, the best part, at least for me, were the end credits when Jack Black and his band covers Hit Me Baby One More Time. Britney Spears' Hit Me Baby One More Time.
Wait, that actually is in the movie?
It's in the movie. Well, it's at the very end, and it's a Jack Black cover. And I
Tenacious D.
Freaking love it. Yeah, him and Tenacious D. So, if you watched
I saw that clip on TikTok
movie,
or on Instagram. I thought it was just like him doing it for fun.
No, but he did it for Kung Fu Panda.
Wow.
Yeah. So that alone is worth going to see it, whether you have kids or not. I know your baby's a baby, but you could just say, use her as an excuse to go see it.
Is this the best Kung Fu Panda?
Oh, that's a great question. That's a question for my 8-year-old who is obsessed with the Kung Fu Panda series. He really loves Kung Fu Panda 3, but he's already seen Kung Fu Panda. Oh my God, I can't talk anymore. Kung Fu Panda. He's already seen Kung Fu Panda 4 twice in the theaters, and this is his strategy. He takes he takes me, then he takes his dad, then he takes his grandparents, and that way he gets to see it multiple times, which is a great strategy if you're a kid. Yeah. The brains on this kid. I think it's among his favorite Kung Fu Panda movies. 3 was number 1 before. I feel like this one is probably eking up there for him, but I haven't watched 1 or 2. I just think it's totally solid. And if you loved Peaches from the Mario movie, you'll love this cover. And I think that Jack Black just needs to be in everything. Maybe Absolutely. Jack Black should have been the emperor of the universe,
Ooh,
I feel like
that.
anybody else. But then he would have been like, a kapow! Go get the Muad'Dib! It just would have maybe been a little too much.
It may have worked, though. It may have worked. Who knows?
Tenacious D, rocking out in the background.
Just riding on a sandworm? Just rocking on a
sandworm?
Yeah!
That's what we need. How hardcore is that?
We need the Jack Black cut of Dune Part 2.
the brilliance that we're coming up with here in just such a short time. So yeah, I recommend Kung Fu Panda 4 and anything that Jack Black is in.
Yeah, so Kung Fu. I'm also. It's a tongue twister. It is a tongue twister. Kung Fu Panda 4. It's doing well at the box office. I think it's number 1 at the box office so far. $19.4 million from this opening day and preview screenings. So knocking down Dune Part 2. But again, Dune's been out for a bit, and so again, great reviews, good. Numbers all around. Also good numbers and good reviews all around. And I finally got to see this movie. I've been wanting to see this for a while now. American Fiction, starring Jeffrey Wright, shot and based here in Boston. I won't go deep into it because the many reviews have been out there already, but this is a great movie. I love this movie. Had a really fun time with it. It's funny, charming, surprisingly emotional, and acting is great all around. No surprise that Jeffrey Wright's being nominated for Best Actor. Sterling Brown plays his brother in the film. He's nominated for Best Supporting Actor. This is also the movie starring Dustin Tucker, the local actor here in New England. We interviewed him on the Hub on Hollywood, so check out that episode. Great interview with Dustin. And I really wish I had seen this sooner. Again, it's a really fun movie, really fun, easy watch. I recommend it. American Fiction.
Awesome. And you mentioned Dustin Tucker. We've got some great interviews coming up in the next few weeks here on the Hub on Hollywood. So people should definitely continue to stick with us for those. We love to showcase local talent. Many of these folks who are making it really big in Hollywood. Dustin Tucker was in 2 Oscar-nominated films.
No big deal.
It's no big deal. Yeah, no biggie there.
He should have been in Dune Part 2. Come on, Dustin. We gotta get you in Dune Part 3. I know they don't film in Boston or in the area, but still, we could send him over there.
He would have made a great emperor. He really did.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for more local New England filmmaking news, great interviews, and the great ideas that James and I just have spontaneously here on the show.
Spitting fire.
Stick with us every week. Please subscribe, hit the notification button, follow us on the Instagram, YouTube, what are the other ones? Twitter,
TikTok,
and Facebook, TikTok. We're everywhere that you are. Find us at the Hub on Hollywood. Follow, share, like, and subscribe, and help us continue to make these episodes and to showcase the amazing local talent that we have here in New England. And we help put you in the movies, and we like to think that we encourage the movies to come here to us in New England.
Absolutely. All right, speaking about stuff that's being shot and filmed here, Walking Dead Dead City, a spin-off of the Walking Dead series, is coming over here to Massachusetts. I believe the casting has already begun, right, Jamie?
Yes.
Has filming started, do you know?
That is right. Filming is getting underway in April. So cool. Very shortly, we're in March, right? March, April. So next month, filming begins on Dead City Season 2. They're going to be filming primarily in Randolph, but also in the surrounding areas. Kendall Cooper Casting is in charge of the zombies, James. So on my movie bucket list, as you know, I am a background actor. I've been in a number of productions, some of which are filming right now. Boston Casting is working on Ella McKay in Rhode Island. They're also doing something called Sorry Baby. And there's another number of other things. We bring them to you as they come here. So Kendall Cooper Casting, on my bucket list, I've always wanted to be a movie monster, James. That's what I was trying to get at here. I want the makeup. I want, the blood dripping down and, maybe some fake teeth and all of that. Definitely on my bucket list. So I've already submitted. And here's how you can submit as well. You're going to want to go to kendallcoopercasting.com. On their little drop-down menu, they're going to have a selection for casting. You click on that. That's your submission link right there. So filming is going to be underway April through July on this series. They are looking in particular for athletic people with military or law enforcement experience to play soldiers. They're looking for people with weathered faces to play survivors in the apocalypse. And they're also looking for people who are very thin and tall and flexible to play walkers. How do you feel, James, about being a zombie? You think you could? Would you want to be a zombie, or would you want to be a survivor? Like, what would you want to pursue if you could? In this?
I think just for convenience, I think I'd play a survivor because I don't think I could survive the makeup. I understand it's like hours and hours of makeup. So
yeah, you be the survivor. I'll be the zombie. I'll chase you around on set. Sounds like a great day. These are 12-hour long days, though. It's not for the faint of heart.
Exactly.
And
no makeup.
And not really for exactly. So if you've got a full-time job, there are various opportunities, either a day here, a day there, or they're looking for regular zombies to appear on a regular basis. So check out the link, fill out the subscription, the submit, and good luck. And then you could tell them that the Hub on Hollywood got you in the movies.
Absolutely. Now, we will also need some good luck because as we wrap up this episode, we wrap up, as always, with Cinequote.
Woo!
All right.
We're doing pretty good. We've got
well.
a pretty good record. A pretty good record that I don't remember. But let's see how we do this week.
All right, so Cinequote, we have one movie of the day. We find out, we try to guess the film by the quote that is provided. So we're going to go with guess number one, quote number one, in 3, 2, 1.
That's right, Doc. Even in the old days, he was known as an honest crook.
That's an oxymoron.
Gee, Doc, you shouldn't have said that.
That's funny. Doesn't ring a bell, though.
Okay, let's go to the second one.
Okay, we're skipping. We're going to quote number 2 in 3, 2, 1.
Shocking insolence. I would have terminated her immediately.
I can't do that anymore. The best I could do was fire her.
That sounds like Rocky Balboa. I mean, well, it sounds like the actor.
Sylvester?
Yeah, it sounded like Sylvester Stallone a little bit.
I'm going to play it one more time. 3, 2, 1.
Shocking insolence. I would have terminated her immediately.
I can't do that anymore. The best I could do was fire
her. Kinda, but I'm not sure. Not 100% sold on Sylvester.
Okay.
Let's go for quote 3. Number 3 in 3, 2, 1.
I want to swim the English Channel. I want to go shopping in Paris. I want to lay on the beach in Honolulu.
Do whatever you want. Just don't leave this room.
Okay, that one actually did kind of sound like Sylvester Stallone. But it's not ringing a bell. This is the Sunday Stumper, so these are harder movies to pick from.
This sounds like a 1970s like sort of funny movie. Yeah. I think maybe, or even older.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Maybe. Yeah. Let's go skip, and we'll try number 4. This one's a tough one. Okay. Number 4 in 3, 2, 1.
Whitney, I wish you'd be a little more receptive.
Are we in such dire straits that we want the name Angelo Snaps Provolone on our letterhead?
His name won't be in our letterhead, but his money will be in our vaults.
Well, gentlemen, bringing a gangster on the board.
Ex-gangster. Or as I prefer to think of him, a robber baron. Like J.P. Morgan or John D. Rockefeller.
At least they didn't have a middle name in quotes.
Let me handle Mr. Provolone.
This really isn't ringing a bell. This is a real
I have
real
no
stumper.
Idea. Okay, let's listen to the last one.
I'm scared that we may not get this. Okay, we're gonna skip.
Well, what about
last
you guys?
Quote.
Anybody have any ideas? We'll see.
We'll see. In 3, 2, 1.
Who did this thing to you? Tell Mom.
Daddy knows. He met with him this morning.
Well, who is it?
Better you hear it from your own daughter's lips.
It does sound like Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah.
It's Oscar.
The chauffeur?
What Why you acting so surprised? You knew.
Of course I knew. I just had no idea.
Okay, yeah, that is Sylvester. That is Sylvester, but I don't know. I don't know this one.
Isn't there like an old-timey funny movie called Submarine? I just heard that and I just thought Submarine, but I don't know if that's actually a movie.
Yeah, that sounded like a... I mean, we could try Submarine. We could type it in and just guess. Submarine. There's a 1960... Oh, wait.
Is there?
No recent Submarine. There's Yellow Submarine, but that's the Beatles. There's a 2011 Submarine, but that's way too late, as well as a 2023. Maybe
what about Suburban Commando?
Maybe.
All right, I'm gonna click that.
In 3, 2, 1. No, it was Oscar.
What? Okay. Yeah, I never heard of that. So, how did you guys do? We have officially been Sunday stumped.
Did you know it was Oscar? Comment down below.
Yeah, I didn't. So,
no idea.
We've officially been Sunday stumped. I would be very impressed to know if any of our listeners actually got that.
Yeah, that was a tough one.
For sure.
Unless you're a big Stallone fan.
There's always next week, James. And hopefully we can record on Friday, so it won't be quite as hard next week. So
absolutely,
gotta get our score up.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us on another week of the Hub on Hollywood podcast. Again, as always, be sure to like, follow, and subscribe. Comment down below and join the conversation. And stick around because we will have more local filming, more local casting, and everything else that makes filmmaking in New England great. But for the Hub on Hollywood, I'm James.
I'm Jamie. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Peaches. Yeah.